Yamlinje, Rimba, Sem Duige, Tap, some local Stangure, Sadanazuki Sem Nalia, Shiva, some Nodelia, and the Chigi, and the Dungayoyaki, some Logic Karkari, Yore said. The name the Tiki, some local Yore, some local in the Tiki Gore said. Undushin some non alba, Yawa E. Cheche. And the Dungayan Yaki Kudida, Duja Kondranga Yomobats, Antisorias, Tesolia Marik Passage, Casore, Dipas and Antisore, Chesan Yomobas and Antisore, Tesolatine, and the Dungayungores, Dungai. Chesan Tenigi, Zawatia, and a dozen Marik Passage in Yungores, Yanga, Sepanga, Tato Chubats in Betzimba Telet in Yungores, Chesan Tiso, some notici, Mevasoko Gore. But in the 당한서 섬론 나는 냠린 제어가 야게 땅위에 섬는 가래 람나 네 지금 동아 다달을 기비 니바리 건조스로 요래시 비 건조스로 이체비 gem로 섬로 다야다 되네 안디나시 라신 랑 대화 미디바나 대화 되어봐도 동아 미디바나 샘전 탐제 대화 되어봐도 동아 미디바 지바래 진짜 샘전 탐제 대화데 대나 샘베 섬모 잠바도 곰 되네 샘전 탐제 동아다 자나 샘베게 인지지요 곰 Dene Simjanduja Dewa de Dembata Tunga da Java de Niji Nisebe Samla Shita. Dene Zaning Simja Tamjiki to the Sanjikopan Tobashu, Sempegedang and Dushin the Samla. Dene Simja Tamjiki to the Sanjikopan to be Chirdo, me and the Lunga Yusum Yokone, and then Nichu, Shala Nubiki Jawakaya Chigme, Sempe Nichu Tomiata, another Rangi Lu Longe Keso Tajiba Tam J. Shalapa, Yakonjuli Chubo Puya da Shalipa. Jimbatang and Tangi in Sempe Samataya. And the Shangi Neobata, the Niki, Ganga Ganachin La Delia, and the Condom Malawachi, Sim Matubache, Sevache, Sutubachi in Sempe Samataya. The Nia Givi Jawa, the Niki and Shale, Pembata Rangi, Jamni Janjusim Yamnichel, Bay, Yabore, Sempiki, Katana, Kawakomia, then Zundua, or do Sinazuki, and Dine, and Dile Hava, and Nazukita, Zichi, Chike. yu zechi de mi gom gyapche zechi de mi pe tinge sun chubya dene ndame ba to be sherap se de gom ya de du su nga zu nyamlen che wa de samlo de ya ge tang wo de ti su re se chang zu da kisin zu an di de su ya nga zu ko ya ri samlo ya ge tang ya ri di samlo de su re 진짜 당 아주 먹어 ya ri di de ja khon ro nga ya nyomo ba de ge re sa che o kisin da samlo ge ya wa che je 매바 소고야 직직식 직제 아주 냠는 제고야 직디디레 사직이신다 디고 쉬루와 쉬고로와 나서.
Good morning. So yesterday we continued to look at the method of the stages to cultivate in order to train our mind so as to attain freedom from suffering. Here we need to both recognize the way of thinking which leads to the compounding of problems and difficulties in our lives, as well as the ways of thinking that will lead to lasting happiness. The former group refer to all the afflictions, the arisal of minds such as anger, attachment, jealousy, and pride. It's these that serve to compound our pain and suffering. And at the very root of all these afflictions is the ignorance of self-grasping. The consciousness which grasps at the self as existing in the way that it appears to us. But as it does not exist in this way, this consciousness is contrary to reality. It is an ignorance. Then, on the other hand, there are the minds that lead to happiness. So here, for when one has some experience in meditation, one starts by going for refuge in the three jewels, with sincerity, recognizing their qualities, and thereby recognizing that we need to strive to develop those qualities within ourselves, because that is what will provide us protection from suffering. Thereafter, we immediately can turn our mind to the situation of others, because we would have already long reflected on suffering and its causes and given rise to wish for liberation, and recognizing that all beings are just like us in wanting freedom from suffering. No one is different. We all want to be freed of suffering, but we suffer for the same reasons. We have the same root cause, the ignorance of self-grasping, which leads to the rise of afflictions and the accumulation of karma. So we generate then love for others. May they be free, may they abide in lasting happiness. We generate compassion. May they be freed of suffering. And we develop this ever further, whereby we take responsibility for the welfare of others. We see it as no longer as acceptable merely to have an aspiration, but that aspiration has to be fulfilled. So here we take responsibility for the welfare of others, and we generate the altruistic attitude of universal responsibility. But then to fulfill that responsibility, we lack the skills right now, so we have to become a Buddha. We have to strive to become a Buddha, and so that we can guide beings perfectly in accordance with their own individual karmic backgrounds, their own individual personalities. And thereby we generate bodhicitta, the determination to become a Buddha, so as to guide all beings to attain their own state, freed of suffering. Having generated bodhicitta, we then meditate on the 6 perfections: ethical restraint, the determination not to harm others through our acts, our speech, or even our way of thinking; generosity, generosity expressed to suffering beings or offerings to the 3 jewels and so forth; patience, which is cultivating the mind of patience, the mind that stays undisturbed in the face of adversity; fourthly, joyous perseverance, the mind that takes delight in virtue, serving to inspire us to strive to cultivate ever more virtue. And then fifthly, the mind of single-pointed concentration, and finally, cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness. So these virtuous minds are what we need to continuously receive teachings on and reflect and meditate on their meaning, so as to become ever more habituated to virtuous ways of thinking, and thereby break our habituation to non-virtuous ways of thinking. To do so takes training repeatedly over a sustained period.
지산 델리아 기지기지기지 규와 두고레스 지산 규와 두고레스 지산 다당 안주기 메시드 유베 갑랑아도 다들 루틴디 네 그신예마 슈바 나신 아주 루틴 개발전의 유베 다들 유베 링델이야 아주야 안지기 니니두레사당 소소기 노로지 디냐냐 삼다제 체디기 짱야 삼델 고호마 되바체 는 아주기 체델이야 안지기 니니두단 제와 제고래 롱주 사고고的이나야 대단 염도 조딩아 저기 안지게 지 냠는체의 계침보레스 저는 냠는체의 대시시에 삼란데 디송한주 삼도 다주 고미야지 당고고레스 저는 디마다바체 체디장양기 자와 니니도 단제와다 롱주 짱양 줍두시 되바이나 인디기 안절이야 안에 개와치마도 발라 팽기마레 제자디네 인자 지금 아주 냠는 제디 대체 냠는 제디 계시모레 사지 다데는야 또 시고고레 사지도 가산디 고시르와.
In particular, yesterday we looked at how this life, this precious human life, is so brief. Looking at across the expanse of time, we recognize that this life is just a mere moment, like a flash of lightning. Moreover, this life is momentarily changing. The end of this life is drawing ever closer. We reflect in this way to recognize that it will not be long before everyone, everything, and I will all be gone. Gaining certainty in this, recognizing the momentary change of this life, adds a sense of urgency that from now I must take care of my mind and ensure that I no longer spend this life like I have each previous life, with a mind that's dominated by pursuing the delights and pleasures of this mere life, but recognize that these never satisfy me and they pass and fade every time. And moreover, I must guard my mind from obsessing with the problems and difficulties of this life, not allowing them to overwhelm me, but rather I must use what remains of this life through lifting my gaze to attaining a greater goal, so that of liberation and enlightenment, and thereby strive to accumulate causes to bring about that goal.
Nyamlin Majebana, Hazuki Chidu Gobla Ketuadi, Dipasan, Dipadin Yum the Ketua Yore, Yum the Tugore, Nikawasan Kewadi, Yum to Kiwi in Nubadin Yum to Gore was. The ends are Dinimado Dry, Maris is not a Rangi, Cedelia, Pui, Yensen, and Drogo, and Jisosugi, Beji, Wanda Chimbo, Katse, Yovene, and Anzugi. Desugi and the Shia got to your mother, she do consume the kitchen robot draw to your mothers. And Cedelia, so Benjo Gaze, Sabe near Benjo Coron, and the Casavan, she do couple of your mothers. The Zadan and the Yudu Kabla, she the Jamni some diet. Chimpion Yamnichi, Sosuga Loncha Carrier, Sosugin, Sosulia Bishop Tanguya, Sosugin Nupal Papi, Shanlia, and Donga, Don Chimpion Yamnichia, Arangasi Kasan, Shivana, Rangin, New to Tesolia, Jambata, Zewachi, Sosugi Jamze Yamnichi, Consolia, and Jamze Yamnichi, Tushin, Love to Shevena, that is all Chike, nor Punyan Yen Yubane. Tidu Bada Lonju and Drude, Matu Trubadi, Deletin and to get Jamzi Piki, Samnota, Payada, and the chick, Don Wiki, may Payan Nubach Chasanda, Gawari Tizonzo, Gawachimalma, Drodu and she did the Supanto, the Gawachimala, the Supanto, or the Essage, or Casana to Digo Savare.
Further, yesterday we also looked at how when death comes, everything that we've gathered in this life that hasn't already faded away and been lost will be lost at the time of death. Our wealth, our possessions, our friends and loved ones, none of them can accompany us. They will all be left behind. Everything we strove to achieve in this life will be left behind. All that we'll take with us is the karmic imprints that we accumulated whilst obsessing to attain worldly pleasures and having a mind overwhelmed by suffering and trying to overcome worldly problems. Those imprints, and those imprints alone, are what will accompany us. Recognizing this, we'll come to see how our ways of thinking, our attitudes, have deceived us and served to ensure that we have wasted the possibility of life after life. Now we develop a determination to no longer deceive ourselves, but to turn away from these misunderstandings, these wrong views, and rather strive to cultivate minds in accordance with reality so that we can live a life of ever greater freedom. And whilst doing so, taking care of those around us, taking responsibility for those around us, and thereby interacting with them in a gentle way, motivated by love, compassion, and wisdom.
That in my share, Ngar Korwi, Guru Punzo Jans, Du Lenji member, Young Meiji, Chesama Nyamso Malana, Danibo Dugam Jambe Jas.
Turning to the 14th verse. Although you previously enjoyed the pleasures of a universal monarch, you have never once gained experience of the profound Dharma. If you do not practice forthwith, how will you ever achieve its very essence? Jampaldrak.
Dina Shinta Chike Koloju Gebo said the Gebo, Diniki Gebo Koloju, Gebo Gevaliores. Jazan Diniki Geva Lendu Caplia Gebo to the Bay, Lonju Pusum Soba, Wanda Chimo, Korea, Mamboshu, Jevaris. Jazan Diniki on the chair, Lenji member, young mages, Sarjing member, Sarmambo, Yamin on the Diniki Georesta. They do the Yagata, the Koloju, Gebo, which in a Sarmango Gears. Then that is what our colleague, Punzo Jas, Koloju, Gebigi, Jawa, and you Punson Soba, one Puson Soba, and the Corpado member Yubigi, then like Jawayam, Lenchi member, Len Mongo Sarmango, Len Yoyores, or do Lenchi member, Yomwekis.
Look at the first line. Although you have previously enjoyed the pleasures of a universal monarch, what has been referenced here is that since beginningless time, where we've continuously taken rebirth without any control, but remaining bound in the suffering realms of samsara. We've been born in all of the lower realms as a hell being, as a spirit, as an animal. And we've been born as a human many times, and even as a god. And in these rebirths, we've experienced every kind of pleasure and pain imaginable. Because these rebirths, we have not taken just one or two, but innumerable numbers of births in each of these realms, including rebirths where we could liken our pleasures to that of a universal monarch. And here we can understand this term to refer to someone with immeasurable wealth and power, experiencing all the possible pleasures. We have taken rebirths like that, and not just once or twice, but innumerable times.
tarbiya gopa sayada, sangi gopa sayada, mato bache, denu ngāzu jikkorwa labi dushine lādui duwas. Chizāda, jike, dini yanzā, di garichine lādui barela ne, ngāzu chue samu nyamsu malāmba yanzā, ngāzu nyamlin jiba gewi ki, ngāzu gewi chue nyamlin jiga rinpa de shukchimbo che mato bache, ana ngāzu nyomo ba pangwa de pang mato ba yanzā, di yanzā ngāzu ki gaso de kowale zhe tarpase tomatuba sanyi kubo tomatuba andusine labare esura che samonyam so malana se malamba inza di labare esura.
So whilst it is the case, we've had this remarkable variety of births, including those of immense suffering, to the other extreme, to those of abundant pleasure, what we have yet to achieve is liberation or enlightenment. So reading the first 3 lines, although you have previously enjoyed the pleasures of a universal monarch, you have never once gained experience of the profound Dharma. So here the problem is because we have not practiced sufficiently well yet, because this is not likely to be our first life we've encountered the Dharma, our first life where we've tried to transform our mind. But we've never done so in a way where we've developed to the level where the transformation is lasting. We haven't yet managed to abandon our afflictions together with their seeds. This is why we find ourselves in the position that we are, repeatedly taking rebirth without any control and in the danger of again falling to the lower realms.
Karela war sungor sene tisa dame ba to be sherap jeje che samo se yu di to yu di sabadi dame ba she de to be lo sherap de je sherap lo na na sabadi che tisa che samo se dame ba to be sherap gom je nyamne de yagu ma chung ore tisa shine ding ye jinda shine da dame ba to be sherap nyamne yagu ma chung wa za nyomo ba pa ma thu ba des tisa da kolo gi be jewa len ba de nga je ge de 가사 슈바나시 룽아스 니제트미 수름소와다 진바타와 쇠바 공바다 전주좀 말아서바 제네 몰람답니 콜로기베 기베기와 먹고 대소 냠는 제여라서 제상 콜로기베기와 먹고 기와 렘바자 대소 냠는 제여라서 이나 가르줘야 말아서는 다음에 봐도비 셰랍 냠는 마종 와레스 디 마종 와서 녀모모 빠투요 말레스 제상 내가 아니 녀모모 되게 와도지 기도는 녀모모 마방바에서 코발을 저 두고 말 제가 녀모모 마방에서 데니고 콜로기베 개월레나 녀모바께 는 디왕의 양자 아니 지게 량한바 사진에 마 아니 지게 마 두가 마 교월 마 게데 차기도 와서 제가는 최선 뭐냐서 말랑바에서 시도 다음에 봐또 배 셰랍딩아 저기 게제 디바 다음에 봐또 데니 또 배 셰랍딩 곰제네 아니 다zen 마릭바디 빵마투바 녀모 빵마투바레스 녀모바 빵마투바 인자 디기 겐제네 가서 코발레 양결바 개발된 거래서 탈바 토마토 디디에 숨고르다네.
You have never once gained experience of the profound Dharma. Profound Dharma refers to, the term profound refers to emptiness. And the mind that realizes emptiness, the wisdom realizing emptiness, is what we have never gained experience of. This is why We are not sitting here having abandoned our afflictions together with their seeds. What is certain is we have trained well in ethics, in generosity, in patience, in joyous perseverance, and made prayers to have good rebirths. Hence we find ourselves here. So we know we have, and therefore definitely can, accumulate similar causes again, because we're experiencing their result. But the wisdom realizing emptiness, this we have not yet developed. Hence, we haven't abandoned the afflictions together with their seeds. Therefore, we must strive to cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness, because this is essential to gain freedom from uncontrolled rebirth and samsara.
지게 제와 치마 하다 미고 와 토바 잠기디 닝보 가이미 도와서 월다 지자지 가선데 디잠지 지다 능안송의 동안에 타르제 내가 안지 하다 미 되기 연구월때 콜로기베 제와 제와랜데 베지 마주게 되니기 된저기 베네티기 풍선 소바제 연구월에서 이내야 닝보 항상에 가요 말 닝보 가요 말 그래서는 그 되니기 뒤수질 파 조제네 야자 녀모바 마바 와자 and dig you on engaging Manzu Yaya and Koala Kigores, Chesson Koala Tario Mares, Chesa the Koala Matobaza, Dingy Dunga di Meva Suetuvio Mare, Dingy Deva Tovio Mare, Chesa Nimbo Mevare, Chesa Nimbo Medida, Getsa Chimbo the Chayo Mat, Casore, Donda Chimbo the Chayo Mares, Tovio Mares. That Nimbo the Gare Labna, Koyo Dunga Chasan Bangin, Yomo Sabona Chiba Bang, Bang do that. 거기 동안 타다 좋아할 때네나 그디네다 대화네 대화마도 동안 요 저기는 요 말해서 제가 네 거기 동안 타다 좋아해 타고 토야 되다 닝보래서 닝보디 돈다 닝보래 되네 그 대화네 대화마도 그디네 다 동화서 저기는 요 말해서 되네 인자 당하서 딱 디토비아라 가르쳐 보래랍나 제가 대시 때 진보 출연 저번 준비했더니 냠는 제가 이행 맞지 네가 가르쳐 어디 가르쳐는 다음에 봐야 돼. 방아주기 제바체 다음에 봐도 로디 랑길에 계죠. 니곰고레스 니곰모 공부도 따져 공부이나 되는 다신데 방고 사번에 저 방토그래 되네. 땡기 대화 토투고레스 탈바 고 안동 땡기 대화당 안동아 코발에 저기니 게임에 봐도 코발에 탈바를 줘와레스 지자 다음에 봐도 비셔도 공부고레스
I'll just change one word in the fourth line. However, if you do not practice forthwith, how will you ever achieve its very heart, Jampaldrak? So here, Gyatso was saying to his heart disciple, you have to practice, and you have to practice far, far better than you ever have, and transform your mind to a level that you never have yet achieved. Because you certainly have practiced ethics, generosity, patience, joyous perseverance, and prayer, in that you've achieved this result. But that alone is insufficient, because if this is all you practice in this life, and whilst you must do so, you can only be confident about another good rebirth. You will continue to remain bound in samsara, thereby continuing to experience suffering experience upon suffering experience. And you'll always be in danger of falling to the lower realms. So whilst you are achieving benefits from your Dharma practice, you will not achieve its very heart of the Dharma practice, because you will not fulfill your heart wish, which is to gain freedom from suffering in its entirety, to abide with a mind that is only peaceful, only blissful. This is your heart wish. And the achievement of that is the heart of the Dharma, and it comes about through meditating on the wisdom realizing emptiness. So whilst it is imperative that you continue to cultivate a mind of ethics, generosity, patience, and joyous perseverance, these need to be conjoined with the wisdom realizing emptiness. It's only through the wisdom realizing emptiness, supported by other practices, that you'll be able to gain freedom from suffering, attain liberation, be a liberated being. And this is the very heart of the Dharma. And to achieve it, you must now strive to accomplish wisdom within your heart.
benangane jimba tsusin soba zunditi nyamlen che kugores di nane ya zo de dame ba to be shera to kom kugore di nyamlen zo ro ches desa da ngazo dame ba to be shera kom nyamlen che ba dele ani ji lüdin khabara chanji me ba ina ani ji lüdin ani ngandre lüdin shulen ba ina di tenla dame ba to be shera kom ya la kale khabo chagor ba dine ensa dame ba to be shera ju ya bol kom go di zo kom go di kom ba la tin khabara chanji kugore jesa tin khabara chanji komyagi dondala kasrai dondala ngazugi surin soya da disun ani jimbata wala soba nyamlen che kugure ese ore sesa dene za nganzu jike zodi nyamlen yu zodi karsan dame bato be shera kom kugures sesa da di dame bato be shera kugala tungin dele kar kugosene dene jimbata wala surin soya soba komba zönjugi nyamlen di kugures che kugures songore.
What we're being encouraged here to do here is to have as the main focus of our training in cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness. However, this must be conjoined by the companion training such as ethics, generosity, patience, and joyous perseverance, because if we do make some progress in our training in wisdom, but our ethics have been poor and we fall to the lower realms in our next life, that training will not be able to develop. We'll be so overwhelmed by the immensity of suffering in the lower realms that we will not be able to continue to spiritually develop. So therefore, we need a balanced approach. The focus needs to be on cultivating the wisdom, but it needs to be conjoined with the other trainings such as ethics and so forth.
장슈심 심제 탐지기 된다래 상주고만 토벌 쇼심 비기 장슈심 심주 군에 라제 되는 고미야 조어들 다음에 봐도 베셔야 돼. 근데 동바지도 베셔야 되고 뭐래서 저 고미야디 상주고만 토비 치도 군로라 가르스네 장슈심 군에 라바지 장슈심 심비 토네 아니 다음에 봐도 베셔야 돼. 뭐래서
And to achieve the supreme goal of Buddhahood, one needs a motivation of bodhicitta, and with such a motivation, engage in cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness. So therefore, to attain enlightenment, both are needed, bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. In the 15th verse, due to the strength of your level of familiarity with knowledge gained, do not continue to wander, gathering teachings, but rather put into practice whatever Dharma you know right now, as death is rapidly approaching Jampaldrak.
가서 자야게 셰바 로저 로르파 베샤 나 로저 강비 곰톱기 치퇴비 자한 마코야세다 제사당 저기 롭종 제네 삼르 롭종한테 퇴삼 곰숨 흉망 오 자친부 시부다 바이나 당 데네 퇴비기 야함고 와서 차상치 그 차상하고 와서로 유여바하고 와서 당 안술이야 데네기 데니게 롭종 제제 퇴바망부 퇴삼망부 제 흉갸치모 도당 지게 흉망부 따제 퇴바 야신보로지 가이 매바 있나야 네 디그리스 같이 최강 셰바디 최지시 냠소랑 오레스 코소소라는 게 다데 최 냠는 제디 뉴뉴지마도 마신베나 강신바 소소기 냠는 제고 소소 곰제 야공고 땅고디 디고레세 지나다 아주 중나다 땅네 퇴바 야치모 슈지 고월와 제자 차상 신고월데 이나 데니고 고고 말아와다 데니 자야 고고 말아와이네 소소라는 게 최 냠는 제기 강신바디 빠직 냠소랑 오레스 디마 냠소 말아바이네 아내가 저기 뒤뉴도 치워 잼버서 그직 다들 고급 유디급을 되는게 냠서 말아봐이네 아니 게디시야 내가야마 시르나 아니 아주 냠서 말아봐 시르네 아주 경험하게 거래야지 단다 디슨 거래 시간 좀 들었어요.
Due to the strength of your level of familiarity with knowledge gained. Here then, we are being advised that you have Dharma knowledge at this point. Amongst you, it will be of varying levels, but you do have Dharma knowledge. And this knowledge is imperative. We need to have an understanding of what are the minds to cultivate and the minds to abandon, and why to do so, and how to do so. And the more knowledge one has, the greater the level of integration will follow. However, the second line, do not continue to wander, gathering teachings, but rather put into practice whatever Dharma you know right now. Here we are being told, have a balanced approach. You need to gather knowledge. You need to receive teachings and continue to receive teachings. But don't leave it at this mere intellectual knowledge that you're gaining. Whilst receiving teachings, integrate that. Whilst hearing teachings, think about the meaning. And between hearing teachings, continue to think about the meaning. You need to have a balanced approach because death is rapidly approaching. And this is the case in the time when this text was composed many hundreds of years ago for the student Jampodrak, and it's the case for us too. We do not know how much time is left, and what it remains, it's imperative that you both integrate what you've already come to know, as well as continue to gather knowledge, but integrate that. Do not leave this life with mere intellectual knowledge. Even if you are highly learned, those imprints will not be the same as if you had integrated that knowledge and thereby transformed your mind.
지금 뭐네 중나다 가서 뒤수에 당고가 브라바에다 가서 주 지금 퇴삼 균링부지에다 되네가 고고래서 지나데 나라 퇴삼 곰수 퇴바다 되네게 취망고지 녀바이네 소수게 돈달라 삼람마다지 마곰바이네 야기줘요 말이지 우리다 퇴바즈마도 이야기줘요 말이지 지나다 소소라라야 직다 퇴바 퇴망고 퇴배 돈달라 삼다 디 냠수 렘바이네 소소 냠용 냠수 렘바는 야기줘요 봐지 아저게 탈바 탐지기 보고 와도요 봐지 다 게시당 가서 삼나라 가는 거서 다는 최지시고 야침벌에 댕이디 대서 차상 안에 퇴요 말에 안에 직 신고 말다디 지기 제라샤 출야 지금 아주 재미지 민도아 선배게 삼노용식이와 지나 디네 삼당교 말에서 셈슈차고요 말에서 퇴바 야침벌 제마도번은 소소 강신바디 파곰제 냠솔레 냠는 제고래 띵 공필당 거래 디담반도 소소를 나중에 팽고래서 그래 지나 최지시 냠솔 랑아스 지나 디네자 디 냠솔레야 디기 아니 다데 냠솔레 반에 디네 시로반에 개와치마래야 아주 디기 팽그래 개와치메 때라야 야게 냠라 제고 그래 그래서 누 지나가서 야게 조그래 송거로 와
Here we were encouraged once again to take a balanced approach. And here, it's a balance between gathering of intellectual knowledge, which is indispensable, and integrating that at the same time within oneself. Because if one just engages in the process of hearing or reflecting, gathering knowledge, but one does not at the same time integrate that within oneself through reflecting, thinking about the meaning of what you're hearing again and again, one's habitual ways of thinking will not change. As much as one is solely learned, one's mind will not change unless one also integrates that knowledge. And for those of you who are sitting here and think, I'm kind of new, I don't know very much. Don't be deceived by this. Over these days, you have all learned something. Whatever you've learned, and you take away from here, reflect on that again and again. When you have the opportunity, gather more knowledge, attend more teachings, and keep adding to your library of knowledge and deepen your reflections in this way. But engage in the two together, hearing and reflecting concurrently. Engage in them together. In this way, you'll start to experience your mind changing in this life and thereby experience greater happiness in this life, and through the karmic causes you are creating, can have confidence in good rebirths in your next life and stronger imprints to the Dharma, which means you'll be more likely to be born where there is the Dharma, you'll seek it out, you'll meet qualified teachers, and with delight, you'll continue to engage in your spiritual transformation.
공상기 장주 장샘 공매 장사 최선매 제지 공발에 레뇨모드모 중중에 구숨고방 구숨요 고방 예버다 세제 근데 숨 기세 이 체면으로서 구숨요 고방 예버다.
Turning to the final verse, the 16th verse. The Buddhas and also the great Bodhisattvas meditated single-mindedly on the profound Dharma and thereby severing karma, afflicted minds and their stains at the root, attaining the state of the three kayas.
제가 공상기 장심 공매장 최선매 지지 공발에 녀레뇨모지마 중내 총세데. 제가 상기에서디 가르치르시네 곰냐는 제시 아니 곰발에 때네 아니 최삼모 가르송 곰세네 장주심기 운이라제 아니 진바 추준서바 준주 삼대 또방이 되비 셔럽 제지도 곰발에 때네 아니 가서 녀모바 지마 바차라 제바 빵바레 중내 총바레 세지 중내 상계에 되네 총제 아니 구송고방 녀발다 구숨요고방 녀발다진 되네 구숨요고방 상계세데 토바레 세지 상계세데 두숨 토바레 숨거로 지지시가 된다디리다.
The Buddhas, the way they trained and the way the great Bodhisattvas are training is that they meditate single-mindedly or single-pointedly on the profound Dharma. So as we are talking here about those who became Buddhas and those who are becoming Buddhas, we would understand this then to be solely in the context of the Mahayana, which means the profound Dharma would be that of the Mahayana. So with a motivation of the wisdom realizing emptiness, and conjoined with bodhicitta, they would have meditated on bodhicitta, on the wisdom realizing emptiness, and on the other practices such as generosity, ethics, and so forth. When their meditations on generosity, ethics, and so forth would have been conjoined with bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. And in this way, they severed karma, their afflictions, and their stains at the root. And in this way, they attained the state of the three kayas, or the three bodies, which means enlightenment was achieved.
상계 세대 드니스 냠수 렌체나 상교고방 토바레 다다 장주 셈바티게 이네야 안 두스네 다시디 상교고방 토지 되서 냠수 링고레 제르가다 장주 셈게 장주 잠니지게 되네 장주 셈게 장주 셈게 꾸네라지 진보 수준 서버 준저 삼대 셰랍티게 장주 셈바티 되서 냠 링고레 상교고방 토비 치도 되서 냠수 링고레 제레.
Again, the first line, the Buddhas and also the great Bodhisattvas. So this is emphasizing that this is the path that leads to the successful attainment. So this is how the Bodhisattvas, the Buddhas trained, those who have attained the final goal. And knowing that, those who are striving now to achieve the final goal, the great Bodhisattvas, they are training in this way.
삼나래야 직소수기 직제진의 상계에서 얘기도 산다진 직수라야로 삼다셔와 안되는 시로 말다 가지 지게 소수기 냠내 제제 안 총으로 붙이나 소수기 녀의 공유로 사시 아니 무리 파제제 직 퍼주 산다산 수 안지알 잘라지라요와 상계세디 저기 개와의 야 제진 산다지자는 수 상계세들아 직 총나지라요로 그래서 니네 매바래 지산 상계세대 지산 상세계세의 단단히 연구래 지산 상랍도 아주 녀모 디바 바샤의 제가 매바 서바들 상세오래 예 랍도도 아는 아주게 시지 연된 신고바 차상 신차와들 개바시고 지산 상계세.
Way one attains the state of Buddhahood is as has been presented in this teaching. It's not something that is only available to the powerful who can influence others to give it to them. It's not only available to the wealthy who can go out and buy it. It's not something that that Buddhas can bestow on us. These are the qualities we ourselves need to develop. And this is shown in the word for Buddha. The word Buddha is Sanskrit, the Tibetan word is Sangye. Sangye has two particles, not particles, what's it called? Two syllables. The first is Sang and the second Ge. Sang means completely purified, have been completely abandoned the afflictions together with their seeds and stains. Ge means to have completely developed all good qualities such as wisdom, love and compassion have all been completely or perfectly developed. That's the meaning of Ge. And all faults have been completely or perfectly abandoned. That's the meaning of Sang. So the word for Buddha itself shows that the practitioner themselves needs to transform their own mind.
Tisa danga zuge dulo ro shi tsokpa chakpa ro shi u chewe ne dulo di tsokpa dosi kirwa, tsokpa pe chakpa dosi, tsokpa dosi. Tene nga zuge izi gyabche tsara tangpo chui, tene denu tsara tangpo chui du chakpa korwa dasa, yangya tuya sayan denu izi gyabche, yangya tsara nipa, tangpo nipa sumpa tsara hashi chui bane, kaza chakpa chasang dasa na, deji chakpa yugen dulo dila chakpa chasang goye diba dasa wana, 대지 둘로서 짱마 차샤라 그러고 마도 지 둘로 사와 현대지 얘기 말아 대지 다가랑 둘로 잡고 예되긴디 주의지 잡고 다연디 둘로서 짱마 차송으로 짱마 해라 그러고 어디 나지 가서 셈될이야 되차 콩로 나제 녀모바 세번 바차다 제바 균식 차상 예리 바제 당한서 연대지들 가서 삼로들이야 현 편배 삼로다 제외 삼로다 지기 녀모바디게 가소리 진비게 삼로팅 가서 여러와다 디가 주기도 니버 충충 차대 제발라 마선다디 되샤 콩로 나제 녀모베 사번디기 디주신 파 dum지 가서리야 지가서 짱마 약보디 니버라 충충제 대서 균디게 잡아나신 균디기서 니버 지우지 전부라 차대 여러와 제가 당한 저기 둘로 주변나 지가서 셈디 that is my duo chagore. Just an 지금 잠바곰 니제곰 안지 룽아스 니제도 추름 송 또진 마 삼로데 곰고고지도 나주길라 셈딩려야 대시 되니게 잠바다 제외 삼로 여바데 야야야 치체체 조도 안 대시 귀인리디바 누비 충충으로 간잠질려 곰제 다음에 봐도 비고 전주심비 군에 나 다음에 봐도 비셔라 야야야 제도 아니 아주기 셈게 나로 균이리디 봐 매바차 아니 간잠질려는 사본다 제바 바샤다 제바 차상 매바차도 난도 셈디다 짱마 차와래 짱마 시스마진 둘로주가 짱마 짱냐 차서 균 탐제 바샤다 제바 봐 방사래 제사 매바 차상 고에 균 유모 바샤다 제바 봐 상와래 매바래 상바래 제사 다 디네 상요도 아주의 삼류기 셰바디 차상 연된 강한 차상이 신고하다. 지상 예바래 상계세. 지상 상계세의 기디 차워서 나주의 삼류기 녀모 바샤드 마 직방에 있는 아주의 개위 삼로듯이 아주 송시 휴제바 삼로듯이 파 곰지 누바처처 따가지 누바처 친구들은 곧균 차상 매바 바샤드 제바데 매바제 다 자와디 균에 게 매바 소용도 상계세 차르고 해제. 제가 랑게 셈기 녀모베 바샤 제바 기대 짱모서 살아나면 당하서 상계 차고르데
When you have filthy clothes at home, but these are clothes you want to use again, you will have to wash them. And if they are particularly filthy, you'll have to wash them several times. And each time you take them out of the washing machine, you'll see, oh, there's a little less dirt than last time. But you put them back in and keep repeating the cycle until eventually they are clean and as good as new. So this is the process of what we're trying to do with our mind. We are trying to cleanse our mind because our mind is currently obscured by the afflictions. So the afflictions together with the seeds and imprints obscure the purity of our mind. And to remove these afflictions is the goal of all Buddhists. And to do so doesn't come through a mere wishing. no matter how sincere that is. But it comes through one's own endeavors of meditation based on knowledge. And it is a process that takes quite some time. Just like if clothes are particularly filthy, it takes some effort to clean them. Slowly, through repeated effort, these layers of the afflictions will start to weaken and be washed away. This is what we do through cultivating wholesome minds and avoiding unwholesome minds. This is our process of training. And as we apply ourselves to this gathering of knowledge, meditating on that repeatedly over a sustained period, we will start to be aware of the lessening of our unwholesome habitual tendencies and the strengthening of our wholesome habitual tendencies. So we'll see these two words, these two syllables that make up the word for Buddha, Sang and Ge, the purification. In other words, we'll experience it as the weakening of the habituation to the afflictions, and the Ge, the development of all good qualities. We'll see our mind being more habituated to wholesome ways of thinking. We'll start to experience this change in us. We'll recognize the afflictions ripening less often, being less strong when they do, and more easily fade or more quickly fading away. Likewise, so that's the Sang side, and on the Ge side, we'll notice that wholesome, virtuous minds are what mainly dominate us. We go about our day dominated by love, compassion, wisdom, and so forth. In this way, we start to experience the process of inner transformation. This is what we need to do. This is the route to Buddhahood. Gathering knowledge, reflecting on it, and in this way, purifying the afflictions and developing all good qualities. And when the point comes, when Buddhahood is attained, all the faults are completely purified, which means our inner qualities shine through perfectly. This is when Buddhahood is achieved.
주에디 소소라랑기 준마다 샨다게 소수 맞아 삼로디 장마스티야 요마레스 제사다 소소라랑게 장마스고디 장마스다디 소소라랑기 귤라 게위에 삼 잠비에 삼로 여바다 지위에 삼로 여바디 바 곰시 니바 쳄셔다야 되는 지기 샬레 니바 지기메 삼로지 여러바다가 디 여바디 곰지는 니바 쳄다야 샬레 로 지긴 세베 삼로데 여랑아솔레 니 삼로디야 곰지 니바 쳄다야 제사다는 샬야 두신에 네와 지기메 파 콘랑메 파 지기 셈투메 세베 삼로데 여레 디양아줄이야 바 곰지 니바 쳄다 나주기라 자위기 나오듯이 차상 냠는 지기 자위기 시세딩 아줄이 여여바데 제상 아요디 야네야도 곰지 니바 쳄다마도 라바르와다 지사 녀모바디 야네야도 콘로데 야네야도 랑 되샤데 야네야도 라도 고도 니바 쳄셔다 지상 아요지 지게 데니게 잠지리데 야네야도 삼마타베 이고 고도신 교보지 라디오로와다 당한도 두시데 잠비에 삼로데 야네야도 삼다다 아니지 주림디게 야네 동에서 야네야도 삼도 고야 지그 칼랑마선 최대는 마서 야를 친지와 니바 쳄셔도 대시 데니게 콘조 니바 쳄 야네야 삼다도 되샤 콘로데 고 삼다에 바샤고로와 지도 콘조를 고합라고 뭐 지도 콘뭐 겨겨주고로와 지도 데니 장아도 두치나 삼다에도 난저기 산제 고와 토야디 두신 토고 레제레 데니 자당 아주 삼다에도 아니 계신주다 아주 두신의 계획자와 삼다에도 다딩 아주기 니발 마선에 지기 야 쳇던 거로 지자 데네 장 아주기 냠는지 두 삼다디 나서 무수 하고고 말데 이네 산지고 고번 되비게 토야려 타 년년 주고래 디년 주고 바딩 아주기 삼로나려 소수기 아니 지기 계획 자와다 잠바다 제비게 삼로다 짐바 추준수베 전에 데네게 삼로디 파야네 야도 그 니바 쳇셔 주고로 니바 쳇셔도 산지고 고번 토라 타 년년 주고래 거기서 녀모바디게 바 니바 춘수 던 거로 당아서 무슨 마상와 말봐도 아주 수조 미기 통야 여바진나 아주 통야 통 두부를 와다 gewe jawa shukcher roba da nyomo ba ma chung roba de suk roba ji na thong thu go roba da ko zume na samlo na na ja nganzu gi di je thong thu go mar ba ja da nga ju du chen gali gali chen nyamnyong yu tho ne so su ge gawa de shukcher roba ba so su nyamnyo da ha go re nyamnyo da ha go de so su nyomo de chung roba ba de so su nyamnyo da ha go re je ko zu si nyamnyo sa da ha go thu ya ji li go ba.
Our spiritual development and our attainment of Buddhahood, this is something we have to do for ourselves. No one else can do the work for us. It is our responsibility. The development of our own mind is our own responsibility. But we can have confidence that we can do this. All of us. It's not beyond anyone here. You've met the unmistaken teachings of the Buddha, and you had the imprints to do so, and you have imprints of virtuous qualities on your mind already. When you look at your mind, when you look at how you've lived your life, you can see you're ethical people. You have often made decisions that are ethical. Likewise, with generosity, that you are all generous people. So too, love and compassion. These imprints exist on your continuum. You've yearned for people, for others and yourself to be freed of suffering, to abide in lasting happiness. Everyone here has those imprints. What you need to do is just strengthen them. That's all. And it is done through hearing teachings and meditating on them. And in this way, these good qualities that everyone here has will grow and strengthen. We're also very aware that we have habituation to afflicted minds. We get angry, we desire things. Whilst we recognize this habituation, in the same way that we can develop good qualities, we can weaken unwholesome ways of thinking. As we progress in developing good qualities, we'll more easily recognize even the subtler levels of the afflictions as disturbing us, and thereby we'll be wanting to be free of them. And to the extent we spiritually develop, we'll recognize what triggers us, and we'll be more skillful in dealing with that. We'll become ever more skillful in dealing with the afflictions when they arise, and be able to dispel them through generating our wholesome minds. So here we develop both of these sides, the one that leads to Sang and the one that leads to Gye. We develop both of these together. As we develop the wholesome minds, the Gye side, the good qualities, the unwholesome minds proportionately weaken. And if we're focusing on abandoning the afflictions and weakening unwholesome minds, to that extent, the wholesome minds will strengthen. This is like a scale. As we develop further good qualities, our faults naturally weaken. And as we become more skilled in turning away from faults, we do so because we turn towards wholesome minds, and they strengthen. So this is something all of us can do. It is not beyond anyone here. This we can be certain of. And whilst the transformation of our mind, the transformation of our very being, is not something that we can see with our eyes, we can feel it within our hearts. As you train, you will become aware of this. Others, they will look at you, they'll see the same body that they've been seeing for a while, but they will too experience you differently. So take confidence that this can be done.
Sangye jumne digi song yore. Gyatso suy nam sukchi na nusum diya se donsum diya nudu chungs. Gyatso suy nam sukchi na donsum diya nudu chung la gore. Da donda le da wa donda kala gore sene manzu konjo soma gyatso dubi jamro samji jamro chebe na digi jamro ki chebe suy nam di suk jobu chibi na manzu zambuling donsum denike 제 추구 말에 뇌로 충탁이래. 디날 추구 말에 제산 빼 개체무 쉬우셔베. 제산 겸로직 제베네 겹수 권주 선마 겹수 조비 겸로 제베나 디기 쇠남의 숙조부 지kim베나 동숨 디야 점블리 나로 쇼고 말에 동숨 시대다 점블링레 점블링 나신 개체무 딜레 답규 먹고들 사치들이네 추 말했어. 제사다 되니게 소는 야치 뭐 슈사고서. 제사다 점수 좋아다. 대디나싱아 저기 잠니제다 수준나 서버들 고마데 다음에버들에 소는 되니게 빠도면 사고요 봐. 상이 순고로 봐. 제사 되네 상아 저기 소는 야치 뭐 사기를 했어.
The Buddha himself said that the qualities of the three jewels, if they were to take form, the world itself could not contain them. And what this means is that the qualities of the great beings, or the merit on the continuum of the great beings, is so vast. If it were to take form, it could not fit in our world. So from this we can understand that to the extent we do develop these virtuous minds of ethics, love and compassion, wisdom realizing emptiness, and so forth, vast stores of merit will be accumulated on our own continuums.
그래서 저기 여름식에 양에 순고래 지상아 저 점빌링들이야 지당아서 강아 먹고시 이거래 이나다 강아 먹고시 등아서 미기 쇠셔요로시 강아 미기 쇠네 강아 수고래스 제사 먹수세야다 내가 저기 레가레하는 돈에 코리를 뇌네 디기 뇌게 먹고 코리 쪽버서지 디기 돈에 내 먹고 레야다 근데 돈에 저기 랑 과사다 원체 심야던달이야 안 셀레 마자다 되네기 마주 천지 이렇게 서다 강아 먹고지 아주 미세버레스 수고레스 진짜 미세비 동안 먹고시 리고레스 진짜 미세비 동안디 만족이 미게 세는 마도 생이 세트야 말레스 동안디 가서 미게랑 세고레스 매바 쇠다 동안을 세야 돼 만족 미게 탑시는 세고레스 세고레지래 진짜디 디가는 세버레스는 지금 레디 가르쳐서는 잠지 충돌하게 지리고래서 제사당 안쪽에 잠지기 냠는 고고래서 잠지 냠는 제바이나 미수배 강화돼서 두고래 잠지 냠는 제고래서 제사 잠지 냠는 세야데 인지 미지 최케 렘바다 밀렘바 가요 말 최수제배네 최루 간에 있는데 최케 밀렘배네 아주 잠지기 냠는데 제고야 제나 지고렌지 미지 최고 제고하스 거야 말이야서 세상으로 차상이야 잠지 냠는 세야디 배지 계치 무시우레샤스 너는 이 잠지 냠는 제바이나 아니 아주게 잠지기 냠는 제바는 소소 미사지기 나리네 전부야다 튠보야야 아니 지금 미사지기 예연 당한테 개합지 나래야 튠보야야 야고야야 안 디멤베게 개합시하다네 튠제 야고야다 차기를 제사 되네 전부 잠지 냠는 야고 주나 아니 주스 미사나라 기보 점리 시대야 되네 좋투고래 제사 잠제세 냠는 개침무 시우래서 내가 경험식이다 기디나다 개침무 시우지 지시네 아니 냠는 잠제 냠는 난고 제고래서 기디나 갈로 나라디 난고로와
His Holiness often points out that what we see in this world that causes so much pain has been almost always caused by humans. If we look at the destruction of our environment, this has been caused by human behavior. If we look at the results of warfare or of domestic violence or other forms of conflict, this all comes from human behavior. We can recognize how much harm human beings cause in our world. And the solution, though, to this doesn't rest somewhere else. It rests within human beings themselves. It's humans that cause the harm, and it's humans that can stop causing the harm. And how to do so is to cultivate love and compassion. And His Holiness encourages, in particular, the cultivation of love and compassion, because to do so one does not need to be a Buddhist, one does not even need to be religious. Because everyone wants to experience love and compassion in their hearts. Everyone wants to be around people who are loving and compassionate. So therefore, His Holiness encourages inner transformation so that each individual themselves who does so can experience inner peace and thereby contribute to outer peace on the global stage. His Holiness repeatedly gives advice like this. 되네기 마
도치네다 소수기 냠는 상제디게네 소수기 곰 냠는 진 상제고바 토바레 전주선바디게나 상제고바 토위치도 곰 냠는 지고레 제자디네 지난 먼저 곰 냠는 지고레 데나 투레서 도치네 송제나네 셰바디네 아니 얘네 잠배 잡아라 담보스단 데니기 강아주기 냠는 림바도 지고레 세디 강아주기 도시는 준비하고 송와래 사제 도시는다 조래兄弟 지나다 되는 게 오소 준비하고 송와래 유인이 아주 냠는 제가 차상도 송고로 와다
The text then concludes with Gyatso saying to his heart disciple Jampaldrak, what are presented here in not just this verse but the entire text is how all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have trained. So you should do so too. They are who inspire you. They are your role models. Train just like them. Follow their example and you will attain the same result. The final line, take this advice to heart, Jampaldrak, my dear student. Whilst it was said directly to him, we know that the great author like the second Dalai Lama would have had all sentient beings in his heart when he gave this advice.
유단见了的상기 송샤바르와 지상 상기기 교교수 송야디 상기기 유단 도난 뭐 송샤교디 그런 냠는 나제 마한소의 시위에서 송르와다 당보티 송르와
The Buddha Dharma that we have encountered has come from, in a sense, from the mouth of Buddha Shakyamuni himself and kept alive in the minds and hearts of beings, of advanced spiritual practitioners in an unbroken lineage to today.
dunga se da degi se ni yungu duas 제가 제주처럼 동화세던 규단建了的 연구를 ane 지게 대화세의 규단 建了的 연구를 제가 이 규단 建能 친이 나는 做能 셈을 라리고를 제가能 셈나야 안 동화여야 유디가레스네 대자 공정하게 녀모바데 디과세들이스 제가 다 제술 디발을 거더니 제수 마음에 방고레스 디방바는 동화 제 용말에서 다 제수 방바라 안 삼로 가니스땅네 방고를 매바 소고를 라비오도 근데 개화세 냠는 제고레스 개화세 대 가려라나 다 지게 진바다 수준의 소바다 전주의 냠는지야 시랍 냠는지야 된 가소리 예조다 자슈셈 잠니지 자슈셈 대수 삼로 디기 양호 검증호 공부에 땅고래디 검증호 공부에 땅나 대시 도저 녀모바디 디바디 마 충주고래 해서지 땅안줄에 셈나 마소나 동아요야다 디기요야기 파이 균이디 여와 체제 디공호 공부에 땅셔 디마메바 차기래 해서 답람디디 송하러와
What I have passed on to you today is the teachings of the Buddha, no different from what he presented. In brief, what has been presented over these days is that the happiness we desire comes about in dependence on causes. The suffering we wish to be freed from also comes about in dependence on causes. And these causes abide on our mind. Non-virtue is the cause of suffering, and therefore we need to abandon non-virtuous ways of thinking and thereby non-virtuous ways of acting. Virtue is the cause of happiness. Therefore, we need to cultivate virtuous ways of thinking, which will lead to virtuous ways of acting. So therefore, we need to focus on developing wholesome minds such as ethical restraint, generosity, patience, joyous perseverance, concentration, the wisdom realizing emptiness, love, compassion, and bodhicitta. These are essential. These are essential. And to the extent we develop these virtuous minds, we will weaken and eventually eradicate the karmic imprints that had previously, negative karmic imprints that had previously been accumulated. And moreover, as we strengthen these virtuous minds, our non-virtuous minds will proportionately weaken. and we will accumulate ever less non-virtue.
Adonai Nimbo de Anzo no Yamlen Cheki Rimba de Dres at Sonre. That the nigger Yamlen Chebala and Anzo Tin Chabar Chendi, Chetin de Liang Anzo Mi Lutin, and the Chitan Chumili said, Be Masi Dele Yamlen Tin Chabar Chen Chad Yores, Jazada Anso da the nigger Lutin Lea Yamlen Chetu Kale Kabures, Jazan Lutin Chabar Chendi, Denju Lutin Sadres. Dadang Anzukula Tenju Lutin said Yude Bares, Jeza Dadu Yubi Tin Delia, Mazanyam Choka de Kichimoshiburis, and Jeza Mahombanaya, TNT Tobia Yuding Azuki, Susan Soa de Jimbo Soban, Yamnecha, Taranki, Yamnechabana, Mahombana Tin Cabach and Top Tugures, Jeza Dene Muti Changas Yamnecha Cobragores, Jezadang Azuki, Tin Cabach and Yamlenche, Tin Cabach and Mazumi Lutin Cabach and the Ting Anzula Yudes, Jezan detail that the Yamnecha de Kichimburis. The
very first stage for training the mind is to recognize how remarkable this precious human rebirth is that we have all achieved. This life that was so difficult to achieve and is so rare in the world has such great potential. It's really only in a rebirth such as this that we can radically transform our minds. Those beings who are suffering in the lower realms cannot do so. The intensity of the suffering is too great. And those who are long life gods, for them the pleasures are too great and their life is too long, so therefore they do not have any desire to gain freedom from suffering. Whereas we do. And we can develop this further. So at the first stage of training is to take this to heart, not to let this opportunity go to waste, not to leave this life with its potential unfulfilled. Do not waste this opportunity. Rather, use this opportunity well and thereby transform the trajectory of your future lives.
On this, Nimbo Disore, the Nezadang Cetelia, Antiki Tintelia, Lamsa, that in Majaban, Mahomban, and the Chevena, sometimes Juvena, and the Kidishing Avayo was that in the Chevures. Then Majaba Cetica, Gian, you did a launcher side, and the Nikayan go Hovana, digging as a Mahomban Chito, Ping Mare, Pedi, Gavasadi, Pingides, as that, the Nining Boroji, Dushin, Jehure, setting on the Dushin, Labjaros, and Dusnavane.
And the companion advice is recognizing the great potential that this life brings. Do not delay in fulfilling it. Do not assume you have time. Do not think that there are other things of more importance to be done now. Accomplishing the purpose of this life is of primary importance. This is what one needs to have as one's primary focus, and everything else as secondary.
Jezada denegi nakanzuge gare agugore sene tanganzuge dachi gewa tuya dakasa dungase digi tuya tablam samlu thone nyamling samlu tanghangi 야도 이제 예와 최신화데 디 캠바레 로다 하고 거래 세상 가상 근주바나 제가 상기비 남버 상기비기 따와디 따와 딘쇼다 저버 차와메 봐야지 디니스도 킨 거래 제가 두스체네레 제가 내내 예자다 아주 두스체네 아니 겹수 줘야게 겹유세디 건조 숨 남버의 상기비 건조 숨 되기래서 되니게 겹수 줘다디 될이야 아니 지게 이체비 교벌세비 이체 소시네 아니 코비 동할레 타고도 선배 삼다 델레기비 니보 건조숨도 요래서 배 삼다네 동화 타달을 교바도 건조숨 교거래서 이체베데 점로셔야 돼 도시네다 대비요사 점로당 안나바상 이비 취 차상 뒤베나 다와 텐션의 저와 처음에 봐나 뒤바 아니 디 냠랭기 동아야야 그 삼로디게 된데제 세하다 디기주에게 삼로된데 연구를 해야 돼 도시는 아주게 다 예와르마소나 맞아 삼력이 돈에 예와 치에네 도시네 림바딩 아주게다 도시네 하고 바로 차고로 와.
Furthermore, I'm confident that it's clear to everyone that the method to gain freedom from suffering and a state of lasting happiness is through transforming your own mind. And I'm confident also that you've gained knowledge and experience through the meditations how to do that. We've also looked at refuge, so you understand what is meant by the three jewels and how to go to refuge, which is through developing confident trust that it is through relying on the three jewels that we will develop the skills in ourselves to gain protection from suffering. In other words, through relying on the three jewels, we will transform our own minds and thereby gain protection from suffering. And that the way to do this is to cultivate a variety of virtuous minds, and all of these we've looked at sufficiently for you to engage in repeated meditation on. And in this way, you will be able to transform your own minds.
당한 중에 냠는 제대 가는 시골에 세대 당한 중에 다 돌들 쉬we 나 아주 다 소소 아주 쇼변 수의 쇼변이야 나야제 랑지 이세야 되네 다 지게 거기 아주 동화 지게 동화 타달려 저고도 새벽에 다 동화데 먹어야 돼 안 될래 저고래 새벽 당한 중 될래 교백이 뉴바 수요라서 다 잡new conjusum 세디요 잡new conjusum 요래 새벽이다 소소기 지게 잡new conjusum 바 미바지 대동아 타달로 교비 뉴바 건지 교비 숨로 여러 점력 건좀 교브리 선배기 이시시 삼로 이시시 두시네 제 겸로시고 디네 삼로시 다 겸로삼 나 두시네 단 삼로당 보듯이 니바들라다 지게 당아주기 정이 지금도 돌뒤로치 삼다다 쉬고로 봐 니바들야 다 동아세디 랑지부 마인바 셴야 지기 랑나신 대화 되고 동아미도 주바래 셴섬제 쳐서 동아 대화 디기 고걸 지바래 제가 되네자 셴섬제 탐제 대화대 덴버쇼 선비게 삼로시다 대화 덴버쇼 선비게 삼로시다네데 잠바제 되네 섬제 탐제 동아단 자와쇼 선비게 삼로시다 닝제제 되네 섬제 탐제 동아단 자와단 대화단 덴바단 이 탑시 지기 인생의 지기 콘솔 판도 주긴 선비게 삼로시다 된 라산 남다 시기래 안 디네 젤야 디네 다지 녜심장 탐지게 된다 디기 주비에 동화세야 랭아 산지 고방 토고고도 제장의 샘진이 디기 주비에 치도 산지 고방 토버쇼 선비게 삼로시다베나 다 장쇼 샘지 삼다와시 그래 어두신에 삼다네 디네 안 당의 산지 고방 토비 치도 류가 이스묘건에 샬라 뇌비 사와 자와세 자와기는 지금에 랑게 류롱저 개소단 제바 탐지 아야 권조를 최고 부여다 샬리파 로제 디기주야 다 동아슬 파 땅기 sabbe 삼로다 데네 안에 지게 샬레 랑게 미샹게 소소를 녀바다 가르치면 델레 셈마초바 코로 말아바진 지게 쇠베기 냠는 지토가 지기 삼백에 삼로시다 데네 안에 가르소레 내가 저기다 데니게 냠는 지에다 고급라도 빼마서 잠마다 제외 샬레 판바 삼다 두스 냠는 지에다 빼마서 야보레서 비 가와지 데니게 뭐 무튼제 데네 냠는 지도 바지기 선배 삼다도 준주사에 책으로 아 데네 주주에 갑라 데네 아 저게 야 제지바 지게 삼다베네 당아 저게 사지 고레 미시 제지도 공바이나 디고레 데네 유디 미발레 제지도 공메야다 안디멘베게다 소소게 랑게슬라 샘지안 탐제 대화데 덴버쇼 샘비게 삼로디 제주제 델리아 제지도 삼다 공나디고라 데 삼다 공바 지나 샘지안 탐지게 산요 고방 토버쇼 세베 삼다 델레 제지도 미노 공바이나 가지고 삼다 공바세 시고로 나 되네게 봐 주스 레디 아니 디젤에 가지고다 가상가서 다음에 봐서가 세디 로레야 가는 능도 나와 나신치 당아서 풍보다 셈다 가와두선 도시제바제 도시는 제바제 삼다야다 되네 간섬지래 도시제바제 연도다 가지고 나세야데 예도여서 가능스여서 풍보라 뛰는 줍되어 마도 풍보라 마되어 봐 거라 랑왕 외는 줍되어 나세야데 매세베 삼로데 야내야도 다야도 되네게다 도시나 삼다 되네게 도시나 가지고 삼로 림바르스마 되네 다디 되네게 뒤수에 나를 진이 뒤수에나 다 니니메나 가지고 뒤수기디나 파속 직디 지 모다나 드라이다 되니까네 되니게 삼 방제 다여나 약고체 다음에네 되네 샘자 탐지기 된다리야 템베 주긴 샘비기다 샘자 탐지도 산유고방 토벌 쇼선비 삼로디게 두스네 야네 야도 땅마 두스 고미야딩 아주기 림발 돌디르 쉬네 되네시레 두스네 삼다베네 당아주기 당고고레세 당아 디링기 다 dunda지리 참디비리야 아주기다 삼다에게 랍저서 마서나 두스에제 돌디 쉬네 되네레스
Coming to the end, so I want to give you some advice for your daily meditation practice. The first step, when you sit down, recognize this remarkable opportunity you've attained and generate the determination not to let it go to waste, but from right now, I will use it well. And I will use it well to gain freedom from suffering. I do not want to suffer. That's the first step. The second then is, and it's through relying on the three jewels that I can be guided in how to transform my mind to attain freedom from suffering. It is through relying on the Buddha, my spiritual teachers, and their teachings that I can develop them in the way I'm trained in my mind and thereby gain freedom from suffering. It's the second step. The third, all others are just like me. Everyone in my home, my place of work that I will encounter in society, and in fact every being, human and non-human, just like me, in wanting to be free from suffering. May we all be freed from suffering. It's a mind of compassion. May we all abide in happiness, lasting, stable happiness, the mind of love. And thereafter, I will help others wherever I can, in accordance with my capacity, ensuring that I help bring happiness into their lives and do not add to their suffering. But to be able to do so skillfully, I have to become more developed. In fact, I have to become a perfected being, a Buddha. I will have the attainment of Buddhahood as my focus. So that's the third step, the cultivation of bodhicitta. The fourth then is the meditations of a bodhisattva. First, that of ethics. I will bring no harm. I will not harm others with my behavior or my speech, and I will not harm them through restraining my mind from the afflictions. I will ensure my mind is always ethical and not under the influence of the afflictions. Secondly, that of generosity. I will, wherever I can and however I can, I will help others. I will give of myself to others in accordance with my capacity. And thirdly, the mind of patience, the determination to abide with love and compassion and wisdom in one's heart, and thereby never respond with anger, and rather have one's mind staying undisturbed in the face of adversity. And fourthly, that of joyous perseverance, taking delight in one's meditation, taking delight in one's positive interactions with others, and generating the determination to continue to do so. Fifthly, that of concentration. So this can be done as a separate step, but it's best to do throughout the meditation. For example, when previously generating love or compassion, when the thought arises within one, may all beings, myself and all beings, abide in lasting happiness. When you feel love arise within you, abide with that. Develop your concentration in this way. And then, sixthly, the sixth practice of bodhisattvas, cultivate the wisdom realizing emptiness as presented in more detail previously. Firstly, seeing how you as a meditator, how yourself appears, and then investigating, does it exist in the way that it appears or not, as being independent of my body and mind, recognizing that it is empty of existing in the way that it appears, but that doesn't mean I do not exist, but rather merely labeled by mind onto the body and mind. And then the final step, so that would be the meditation, you then dedicate, and then the final point to make is, whilst it's imperative to do a daily meditation, it can be very short, like in the few minutes it took me to read these points, it can take you those few minutes to reflect on them. It can be quick, or you can spend more time. But what's crucial, in addition to having daily meditation, is at points throughout the day, just remind yourself of key points so that it stays fresh. Whether it's that nothing exists in the way that it appears to my mind, or whether it's that may all beings be happy, or I won't harm others in my activities. Any of these points, remind yourself of them throughout the day so that they stay fresh in your mind, and thereby you will act under their influence.
Alright, that is that John the Chasa me to Raji, the Denigi to Sustaje, to Sine, and Chigne, Comja, that in the to Chichia Ravare, John the Senam Bottom Basa Yore, 안 교진에 지제수 일하자. 이 만주기 나주 되게 전에 안 짓고가 플랜지도 시작할 때 하고 중소선 비 마음배네 자 디링 되게 냠는 제바들이야. 제수 일하야 안에도 제수 일하지야다. 배계 신보를 제수 일하지야 돼. 아니 교진에서는 약과사요래 아니 교진이 대 용와 견지는 해야 된 말, 지게 마시에는 쓰는 약과사요래. 지금 한지 배 약과 중월에 아니 되리야. 안 교진도 도시네 미 공생 중교 공생으로 시망 땅에 교진도 공생이 철라마다와제 안지긴 되게 최념는 제가 땅에 배마서 야보 지수 일하다 안 투시시주야이 안델야 냠도 안 세별하기 미원에 직델야 참고지지야다 되게 주시 망보다 배 직제가 배마서 야보다 안 지수 일하다 안 투시시주야이.
Now that as we come to our conclusion, I encourage all of you to look at how you spent these last few days and rejoice firstly in the merit that you yourselves have accumulated that led you to want to do this, and that merit was of sufficient strength that you're able to overcome any obstacles and come here and proceed as well as you have for these several days together. Because it took a stream of good causes that have been accumulated for you to be here. And now that you've been here, you've used your time well and accumulated vast stores of merit. So rejoice in what you each have done individually and what your fellow meditators have done in over this long weekend. So many other people chose to do other fun and exciting things. But you've come here with a decision to transform your mind, to become the person that you long to be, to fulfill your potential. And here you all have accumulated causes that will lead you to living a meaningful life. And now I want to say, but join me in saying this, thanks to everyone who made this retreat possible. So this starts with your fellow retreatants. All of you coming here made it possible for me to be able to share my knowledge and experience with you. And there were particular individuals who helped sustain our Dharma Center and certainly made this retreat itself possible. And amongst them, I specifically want to thank Tsepel. And I know her and her qualities well, and I know she would have led an excellent retreat, in particular on her meditations and guidance. So a particular thank you to her. As well as all the others, like our director and SBC, and the other people whose names I don't know, who contribute to make everything here possible. So from my side, thank you. Thank you to all of you.
아니 시대 용어 쇼스 빅다디 용어로 시대는 시합시다 가도 도시는 잠잔지고래.
Now we come to the final part, which is our dedication of all this merit. So again, rejoice in what you have done and now dedicate that merit to the attainment for all beings, yourselves and each and every being without exception. May their minds abide in peace, solely in peace, and thereby may throughout our world and all worlds, may beings abide in peace. Thank you. Thank you very much.